You don't have to make a statement about who did it, but you can make a public statement denouncing how terrible it would be to attack a building of worship.
That's fine, and I'm sure the president will do that.
And why do you think he hasn't? I mean, it's not like in the last 48 hours the president hasn't tweeted. He's tweeted about his base. He's tweeted about a U.S. senator. He's tweeted about the failing New York Times, and he's made no mention of that mosque. He's also made no mention of the 3 fallen Marines who lost their lives off the coast of Australia.
I'm not going to give social media advice to a man who basically won the election in large part thanks to his understanding of social media and who destroyed the fake news industrial complex's predictions about who would win the last election. So just hold your horses, count to 10, and the president will do what he deems fit.
You see, my dear Bond, we're well able to protect ourselves against all enemies. Allow me to introduce you to the airlock chamber. Observe, Mr. Bond, your route from this world to the next. And you, Dr. Goodhead, your desire to be America's first woman in space will shortly be fulfilled.
I'm Dave.
And today's episode is brought to you by letter N for No Internet for You, because we're talking about net neutrality and the loss of freedom of speech at the hands of
corporate dickbags.
Yes, corporate dickbags, exactly. And we're also very proud to have a special guest on this episode. Yeah, we have a special guest this week. His name's Alex. He's an engineer for a major telecom company. The reason we cannot give you any more information than that is he's going to be giving us the inside scoop on net neutrality and all the dirty, true, windings and dealings behind the scenes.
I wish they told me that stuff.
You got to figure it out for yourself.
Just another peon.
You're basically Edward Snowden.
Yeah, you're our Edward Snowden.
Off to Russia with you.
Is Oliver Stone going to make a move now?
So who's going to play you? That's a good question. And we also have a Lucan Press this week. We're not going to tell you what it is just yet, but stay tuned. It involves Sebastian Gorka, our old Cretin of the week, spinning some webs, some slightly racist, convoluted webs, as only he knows how to do as a Bond villain. Yeah. But we should just jump right into it.
Yep.
Yeah, the most important news, the most important part of every week. What are you drinking this fine evening, Dave?
I'm drinking Dumb Funk.
Dumb Funk.
By Parallel 49. Once again, I'm drinking a beer that's over 6% to carry on the good legacy of this tradition here.
Nice.
Funk sounds like your face.
I mean, this face does look like me right now. I don't know. It's an IPA, but I mean, I have nothing but praise for Parallel 49, but
Nothing to write home about?
No.
Okay. And I'm drinking Powell Brewery's Cheeky Session, a West Coast social ale, which is 4.5%, bought entirely because there's a cheeky-looking monkey on the bottle.
That's cheeky.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, how many times have we bought liquor exclusively just because of, like, the branding?
I'd say, like, 75%.
75% of the time. So, graphic artists, you're selling liquor, basically.
Yeah.
You are drug pushers.
Think if they had that for those drugs.
Oh, that's also true. Well, you got to save that for Scaramucci's podcast. He can tell you about drug branding. Yeah. All right, so we should get on to, I guess, the hot topic of this week, which is North Korea being all crazy again.
Yep.
Or wait, are they being crazy, or is the president of the United States being crazy? Who's
I'd say the U.S. is crazy.
yeah, who's up in the rhetoric horse here right now?
Well, I mean, we've seen the same rhetoric from North Korea pretty much verbatim for 20, 30 years now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're just poking them.
You're just poking the bear, basically.
And now it's like finally they found a guy they can actually troll.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are the world's troll.
Yeah, they are the world's troll. Just sitting there saying, we'll nuke you, we'll nuke you, we'll nuke you.
All right, so I'll just briefly ramble a little bit off the Post article that came out today. North Korea has successfully produced a miniaturized nuclear warhead that can fit inside its missiles, crossing a key threshold to the path of becoming a full-fledged nuclear power. U.S. intelligence officials have concluded in a confidential assessment. Why do we know about a confidential assessment? Did Trump tweet about that?
Leaks.
The president's leaking again.
So yeah, as we've said before, the biggest problem with the ICBMs is that they didn't have the range, and if they did have the range, they weren't able to actually compact something into the head of a warhead to be able to deliver a payload. Now it seems like they're either there or inching ever closer. So do we know what the distance is? Can they reach like Alaska? Hawaii obviously is probably target number one.
I feel like the last time they did this test, they said that they could hit most of the northwestern United States, like Northern America.
The West Coast,
The West Coast. Well, great. Yeah, awesome. For a Vancouver-based podcast, that's awesome news. And I mean, Fallout ranges aren't that big, right? Yeah.
No, Seattle's too close. I mean, we love you, Seattle, but
Well, the other thing this article says is the findings are likely to deepen concerns about an evolving North Korean military threat that appears to be advancing far more rapidly than any expert had predicted.
See, and this is sort of the problem once that, I mean, Trump came to power and obviously pumped this bravado that he's going to be the man. Oh, we're going to be strong again. We're going to be mighty again.
Yeah, strong army and everything.
And it feels like North Korea has ratcheted up their like ability and
they're just
war
fucking
rhetoric.
with them.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But also, how do they rapidly increase their technology so quickly?
I have no idea.
Somebody must be helping them.
So you're saying this?
It's not like this podunk little shitty country that can barely feed its citizens suddenly had this genius that was born, and like they've suddenly advanced their like missile program this far this quickly. No, I'd say that definitely somebody's has been helping them. With this rocket program.
Who do you suspect?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Russia.
I mean,
Russia would make sense.
That's a good,
that would probably be the first
Russia's
place.
the one that makes the most sense.
It does make the most sense.
China doesn't really want things to go off course.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard they've got like hundreds of thousands of soldiers at the border just waiting to shoot any like deserters or armies that are trying to move from the northern border. Yeah.
And like obviously Iran would fit in that, but they're in their own little mess, so it's not like they have.
But Iran's still trying to develop nukes as opposed to rocket technology.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is a completely different thing.
Yes.
They're tied together, but rockets are they're both very hard, but.
And this would fall right into the whole Putin game plan, right? Like he's like fully spent these last like 2 years destabilizing the U.S. from both within, and what better way than from without than like giving
nuclear powers to North Korea
a little help.
So it's fatty versus fatty.
I would be surprised if the U.S. is aware of this too. At least the intelligence services aware
probably
that they track Russians.
I would definitely.
But now, if they were aware of that, if they had like even like semi-concrete proof, do you go to Trump and be like, "Hey, the Russians are helping North Korea,"
or is it already been brought to him and he's not doing anything about it?
Yeah.
Because he's so in bed with them.
Well, there's also that problem where like any information he gets, he might tweet the next day, right? So it's like, do we even give the president this information? No. Yeah, he's got bigger things to worry about.
He's basically a Russian bot himself.
Yeah, exactly.
With the same quality of spelling and capitalization as all those other Russian bots.
So obviously this news is worrying, but then what happens? The president releases that statement, right?
Yeah.
So I've got the quote here. They will be met with the fire and fury and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before.
And like I mentioned, I think everybody now has watched that Game of Thrones episode that just came out. Yeah. I'm sure Donald Trump spent his vacation watching that Game of Thrones episode and just wanted to do his own little Danny Targaryen and just fire and blood. At least he changed it up and said fire.
I mean, he's been getting his ass kicked on every other front, just like Danny.
That's also true, right? Yeah.
Which obviously you don't want your president tweeting out,
war rhetoric.
War rhetoric, or nuclear rhetoric.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't so much as say that, but man, he's been obsessed with nukes for so long too.
Yeah.
It's like hearing a 6-year-old boy talk about like, what is this? Like, can I use them yet?
Yeah, I mean, saying fire and fury and a power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, that clearly means nukes.
Yeah, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And then just recently, like right before we did this, or opened this up, a report came out that North Korea said that they intend to
threaten Guam.
Guam.
Yeah. Guam.
So like, that is a U.S. territory, right?
Yeah. What the hell is Guam? But yeah, there's a lot of U.S. military there.
Yeah. That's like one of their forward deploying bases out in the Pacific.
Oh man, that's such a strange move.
It's not. It's North Korea's next move. It's like, well, how are you going to up the ante if you're going to threaten us? We'll threaten your military.
Right, but it's all rhetoric, obviously, right? They're not going to attack Guam, right?
No.
It's not going to be Pearl Harbor 2, basically.
No, North Korea's never going to strike first.
No, yeah.
So they're all trying to provoke the U.S. I don't really know why, because they would just be like turned into a wasteland.
Yes, absolutely.
But I don't know what their end goal is here.
I think like historically, it's always just been get like financial aid.
Yeah,
you up the ante, and then you get some financial aid.
But they always get more financial aid from rolling it back.
That's it.
Yeah,
Keeping
yeah, I know.
You got to step forward
keep it
and then concede.
But you also have to think, if you're a dictator and you're watching other dictators around the world get toppled, like Gaddafi or something, what were they missing? They didn't have nukes, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have nukes.
You definitely
so let's arm ourselves with nuclear weapons. They're not going to attack us if we have
There's
those.
also a lot of internal power play that we don't know about going in North Korea, because he is still a new dictator to that country.
That is true.
And he had to like prove his mettle and like prove his position and like
that's also true.
Kill his entire family.
You know how we normally assert ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Fire a couple of uncles out of cannons and you're hired. No, that's true. Okay, so here's some nuclear warheads by numbers. Russia has 7,000 estimated. The United States has 6,800 estimated. And then everyone else is pretty small. France has 300, China 260, Britain 215.
Just like a token amount.
Pakistan has 140. That's terrifying.
Pakistan only wants to use them against one country.
Yeah, that's also true. Well, India has 130. They're 10 less.
Israel. What is
Don't forget Israel?
80.
Yeah.
Oh, they actually officially list Israeli numbers now.
Yeah, well, these are all estimates. Experts estimate this many warheads.
Don't forget that the U.S. arsenal is also maintained using floppy disks.
Yes, by Rick Perry. By Rick Perry, Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. And that's still way better than like Russia, which is probably controlled by some drunk Russian bear.
Drunk Russian bear. The nuclear bear. Oh, that's funny. Should we touch a little bit on the mooch fallout? You said you had some.
Well, there's not much. Obviously, the mooch has gone into hiding too bad, right?
Yeah.
Because we all want more of the mooch.
We want more mooch, obviously.
But
he flew too close to the sun.
Yeah, he definitely did.
So, I mean, this isn't much, but apparently the mooch has a podcast. I mean, I fucking certainly wouldn't listen to it.
I think he will now.
But he tweeted out a comment yesterday promoting this new podcast, and it was, "We take the subject of cocaine and its use very seriously in my family. This is worth a listen." I'm sure he's fucking coked out on that podcast.
I saw a great response of, "What family?"
Oh man, just like the greatest 10 days. We will forever love you, Mooch. I hope like history books of the future have like a solid dedication.
At least a page.
At least a little like what a sidebar thing. On
Yeah. The mooch.
On
10 days of glory.
On this day in history.
We should also touch on the reason I think we're all a little bit safer right now is we have vacation in chief. Donald Trump is taking like a 17-day vacation right now, which isn't unprecedented.
Still got time to threaten North Korea.
Yeah, well, yeah, you had time, and tweet a firestorm too.
You know why he's been tweeting a firestorm?
Why?
Because he's taken his vacation in Bedminster, New Jersey, which I believe is one of his golf courses.
That's where his golf course is. Otherwise, why would you ever vacation in New Jersey? Like,
so the reason he's been tweeting and watching Fox, he's been going on a bunch of tweet benders.
Yeah, clearly watching the news.
It's been raining like crazy in New Jersey. So he's not able to play golf. He's stuck on. He's stuck on
no.
And like the forecast, like all this weekend is rain.
What a shitty vacation.
For everyone.
Yeah, for everybody. Like he spent that first day attacking Senator Jeff Flake over some, his scandal about not having a major role in Vietnam. He spent
as you do.
Yeah, standard.
Yeah.
He spent yesterday, I believe, like tweeting. No, that was this morning. He was tweeting about like anything that was said on Fox and Friends. 10 minutes later, the president was tweeting.
Was talking about that's ridiculous.
That's why, like the opioid crisis. He mentioned that he was going to get to the bottom of it.
He has been threatening. He's been accused so long of not doing anything about that too. He's just basically like, radio silence when it comes to the opioid crisis.
He had his briefing and he's got something to say.
There you go.
Finish off the episode
in 140 characters or less.
I'll finish off the episode with his.
I don't know if you also saw on his vacation that he was there was a wedding taking place at one of his golf courses, and he stopped his game to go to the wedding, and just like video footage of a sweaty, fat Donald Trump walking towards the camera, going, "Where is the bride? Where is the bride?" Which is what every father wants to see.
I mean, I'm sure Trump believes that prima nocta actually exists.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
See Braveheart, he totally believes it exists.
He thinks he's a king. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. No, he'll enact prima nocta. No question. Yeah. So, at this point, Donald Trump has taken off 3 times as much holidays as Barack Obama. 3 times, yeah, already. And,
Obviously.
not
It's
to
like
mention...
he ever wanted to do the job.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
I think he wanted Hillary to win more than anyone else.
Yeah, no kidding.
I bet you he voted for Hillary.
Oh, please, God, no. I'm with her. Well, it's hilarious because, like, there's so many hypocritical tweets from him, right? He was constantly chirping on Obama, like, why you at the golf course again? Oh, I didn't know the president could go to, like, his native land in Hawaii, and, like, blah, blah, blah.
There's a tweet for everything.
Yeah,
there is
there's a hypocritical tweet for everything.
Everything.
Everything
Even for the
done.
smallest little things that you would think there isn't.
There was a tweet from him ripping Obama taking a 17-day vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was in the middle of a 17-day crisis. But you know what? He has tweeted that this isn't a vacation. It's a working stay or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be doing lots of work.
He hasn't done
Just
any
like
work. Well, he had a tweet today saying that no president in history has accomplished as much as he has in 200 days.
Yes.
Like historians out there were like, read a book about any
president. Yeah.
Literally any president.
Yeah.
He literally has control of Congress and the Senate, and he hasn't passed anything.
He hasn't passed anything. Yeah, not a single thing. He's doing basically, what is it, executive orders exclusively right now?
Yeah.
Or there is that bill from Congress that basically limited Russia, put in Russian sanctions. But that was just like,
fuck the president.
Yeah, it was just to fuck him over. Yeah, you either sign this and limit it, or you look like you're in collusion with Russia if you don't sign it. So here you go. I mean, yeah, we got to give credit where credit is due. That was a good job by Congress.
Yeah.
And one other little fun fact about his vacationing: he has spent more on travel so far than Obama did in 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Taxpayer dollars.
Taxpayer dollars. Yeah.
Well, the reason for a lot of that is because obviously he's vacationing at his own place all the time.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
he's siphoning the money. It's not like Obama was ever going to his own place.
In his native land of Hawaii.
The king of Hawaii.
Yeah, the king of Hawaii is back. Here to spend more money. Yay! And the economy flourishes.
That's insane that in like 6 months he spent more than Obama had in 8 years.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
I mean, it's what he did with the campaign money too. He just put it in his own pocket.
Yeah, he was really good at siphoning that.
And he's already like
Siphon in
money.
chief.
He's already siphoning campaign money for his next election towards his legal fees in this special investigations.
What?
Yeah.
Actually?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Funds have already been diverted towards legal costs.
Oh my god. Well, that's terrible.
But I mean, if you're donating to the Trump campaign, fuck, you're an idiot. You deserve to be screwed out of your money
in some way.
This is the guy who pays like legal fines with the money from his charities.
Yeah, from his charities money. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so there's no surprise that he.
Yeah, don't put anything past him. Yeah. No, yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
His son stole money from like cancer children with cancer.
Yeah.
There is no bar
to
look.
Shameless, awful people on earth, basically.
Well, speaking of shameless, awful people, we should talk about Sebastian Gorka claiming. Well, I guess this is.
This is our Lugan Press.
Yeah.
Of the week, then.
No, I should have introduced that. Probably it is our Lugan Press of the week. Yeah. Good point.
So a couple days ago or over the weekend, maybe just before the weekend, there was call a spade, a terrorist attack on a
mosque,
Minnesota mosque.
Yep.
The FBI, the local police, all verified it.
Yep.
And shockingly, the White House and the president have not mentioned a peep about it.
Yeah.
Where, any little quip, anytime a Muslim does anything, they're all about
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even things that aren't real.
Oh, yeah. Like
what was Kellyanne Conway talking about? That like fake terrorist attack?
Yeah. The Bowling Green.
Yeah, the Bowling Green Massacre. I think we all remember the Bowling Green Massacre. Never forget.
So Sebastian Gorka went on TV today in his like little Nazi uniform.
Yeah.
And said the reason the president has not issued an official declaration was because they can't be sure that the whole thing isn't a liberal plant.
Yeah. He called it, quote, a fake hate crime. Yeah. Sorry, a potential fake hate crime. But we got to do that in his Bond villain voice, right?
Yeah. And so
he's at best like the fourth lowest Bond villain, like the first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, yes. He's well below What is it, Dr. No?
He's basically head of the henchmen.
He's the guy who throws the hats and kills people with
Oddjob.
that. He's way below Oddjob. Yeah.
Let's not denigrate Oddjob.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, well, what's the giant white giant who's got weird teeth?
No, we're not.
He's in multiple movies.
Oh, that's true. Actually, he survives for a long time. Okay, fine.
Gorka's like that fat blob that gets like killed really quickly.
The guy you don't even remember. He doesn't even have a name. He's just fat blob number 1.
Number 12. All right, fair enough.
What I saw was that since the election, there have been 69 different hate crimes or attacks on mosques in the United States,
as well as against Jewish organizations as well,
synagogues
right? There,
as well.
yeah, there was a lot of synagogues attacked, as well as this is one of the worst ones, like Jewish graveyards. You know, people were desecrating them and like writing swastikas on them and stuff like that.
That's obviously an uptick. That's like more than average.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but Trump has refused to comment on it. He was even asked by that Israeli press in one of the press conferences, right?
Yeah,
and he was even like, "Oh yeah, of course you guys would ask that. You know, fake news." Yeah.
I mean, like, and you've seen like white supremacist organizations basically tacitly say the president's on our side.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you were one of those fucking hillbilly fucktards who probably like has sex with your sister, you would probably think that the president not commenting
so much validation.
Is
absolutely. Yeah, it's not.
And
real.
hell, it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, you know, Donald Trump is an asshole and a rich fucking cunt baby from New York, but I never really found him to be a spiteful racist.
No, before any of this, I didn't really think of him as a huge racist.
No.
I'd say that first speech where he was talking about Mexicans being rapists and all that. That was the first time I was like, holy shit. Donald Trump's a racist. Right, but I always thought of him as this, you know, New York businessman. And because of that, he had certain social tendencies, liberal social tendencies, right? So he was okay with abortions and he was okay with other certain things.
I'm still not convinced he is that guy. I'm still not convinced that isn't like his cronies' hidden agenda that he's just, they're peddling through him.
Yeah.
I've always just viewed him as like a failed socialite who just wanted some friends in New York.
He is a failed
socialite.
He's like a friendless loser who wants to belong in the in group.
Yeah, he's like,
that's a really funny way of putting it.
If I'm Trump, if I'm president, they'll finally accept me.
And what he's found is like only the lowest of the low.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
just
so then he's got to tailor his views to them.
Yeah, I guess that's a very fair point. That's actually a great segue into talking about General McMaster and
although before that, I wanted to touch on the little snowflake incident or the news that came out today that Trump gets his aides and his people to present him with a dossier every day about positive news and positive like news runs and stuff.
Probably lots of drawings and maps.
Mostly crayon drawings.
I love you. Crayon.
Gold star.
So that's how weak-willed the president is. He needs like people to give him like
absolutely.
Could you imagine being a White House staffer?
Yeah.
You're all the way up in the fucking White House.
You've worked your entire life for this.
Just sift through all this shit to find people who like applaud the president.
Yeah. Oh, this is good. A jobs report's pretty positive. Here we go. Well, he has.
Thanks, Obama.
Well, they're not saying that. They don't understand economics yet. Well, he also. Do you know that he also has? It's pretty similar to North Korea's propaganda machine. He's got his own like releasements of what he calls True News now. It's hosted by this blonde girl. It's called the True News.
Daughter-in-law.
Yeah, his daughter-in-law or something hosted.
I saw some CNN bimbo.
Oh, it's so eerie to watch. It's so strange.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of shit that if it happened in another country, if you did
that in a dictatorship, it's right by the textbook.
Oh yeah,
it is. And if we saw that from an outside, like we've seen like now Turkey and even Poland shift very much towards like authoritarianism.
Yeah.
And if that was one of the things we see, we'd be like, wow, this is fucking straight out of the dictator playbook. Straight out of it. And it's happening here, and we're like, well.
I guess. Oh, he's hiring his family in key positions in government. I guess.
He has his own propaganda network.
I guess.
I mean, he hasn't fired the entire Supreme Court yet.
No. Which would be great because like he's in a conservative majority in the Supreme Court. I just shows how little he understands it.
No, he doesn't.
Checks and balances.
Yeah. I think what Americans are now finding out that those checks and balances only exist if people are willing to.
They were unwritten.
Yeah.
You need to write them down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think there's a complete loss of, what is it? There's still the executive branch. There's the judicial branch.
The legislative branch
Supreme
is
Court.
supposed to like overlook the executive branch.
Yes,
right
absolutely.
now, the GOP is basically just like, do what you will, man. As long as we get our tax cuts, we'll go along with whatever policy and platform you want to say. You want to hate the blacks? We're down. We were down with it for a long time.
At least half of us are racist anyway. So.
Now someone's finally signing off on it. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about General Flynn. He's not
McMaster?
General McMaster. Yeah.
Flynn was the first guy.
Yeah. Flynn is in a world of hot water right now. Yeah. Sorry. General H.R. McMaster. He's currently in a bit of hot water with the alt-rights and the racists.
Yeah. Mostly because he's seen as, I guess, a globalist and
like a competent person.
Yeah.
A competent individual.
In the last couple of weeks, he's fired 2 guys close to, I think were hired by General Flynn and close to Steve Bannon.
Okay.
Which tells you that they're probably fucking insane nutballs.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right? Like insane people. So because of that, and I think he took away that Mike Ceranovich, Mike Ceranovich.
Yeah, he took Ceranovich away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the big thing is he took away staffers that were specifically hired by Flynn.
Yeah. So, yeah, those 2 guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, compromise people who might be working.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Which is strange. It's looking like H.R. McMaster might be the first competent hire of Trump's entire
definitely.
administration.
I mean, and Kelly so far has been okay, but it's too early to really say.
It is too early to
But
say,
McMaster has like a good reputation.
He does. It's not necessarily one we endorse, but it's just this is a no-nonsense general, basically. Yeah.
Which, I mean, at this point, I mean, there's the statement to be made that it's the founding fathers of the United States did not build up the American system so that generals and people of the military
absolutely not
are in high power.
If you're escaping tyranny, like that's the whole reason you bear arms. So you don't have to deal with that anymore.
So this whole lot is scary. That like his major 3 roles are now being held by generals.
Yes,
but because he's such a fucking nut job and he's surrounded by nut jobs, I guess we just
at least those guys knew what they were doing at some point. Those guys have discipline. They ran organizations.
Yes.
The other idiots he brought in there are just like the failed like political science students who like no one likes.
Or just strange cronies who work for like alt-right publications, right?
Yeah.
Like Steve Bannon.
Like Steve Bannon.
Yeah, exactly.
White power fucking homeless people.
Evil businessmen looking to like just as much money out of the citizens as possible.
I heard a great rip the other day that was Steve Bannon looks like Christopher Hitchens' corpse must look like right now. That's really good.
But Christopher Hitchens' corpse would be more articulate than Steve Bannon.
Oh, absolutely. At this point, yeah. Just grab him a couple strings and it'll make more sense. He'll make better movies, that's for sure.
I love that Steve Bannon's finally been taken down like a notch. Then, like, public, you can be like, well, do you have any comment on whether you suck your own dick? Like, that'll always haunt you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always. I mean, I hope every reporter always throws that in any conversation. You get all the questions you get out of an interview, and the last one is, so, what are your thoughts about sucking your own dick?
It's finally marginalized.
We should touch on the Google manifesto a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to open that one up? Or?
Yeah, I guess, like...
Alex, you seem to know a bit
Yeah,
about
I mean, I work for a tech company. The Google manifesto was basically what would seemingly be a right-wing leaning and probably somebody who's never been laid engineer in Google.
Oh, so it was incredibly misogynistic, you're saying?
It's mostly against women that basically saying that they are not equal to the task in the tech world, and that's why they don't have jobs in the tech world. And that's because there is a pending litigation against Google that says they do pay more to men in the similar positions, and actually going through the courts right now, which I think motivated it. But basically that went out internally wide, which is like, if you don't want to get fired, that you should never make it wide to the company.
No.
But that then got leaked to the public, and then obviously Google had to address it, and now he's been fired.
Yeah.
And it was a 10-page manifesto.
It was
that's
quite
a long manifesto.
It was backed by, quote, science.
That's not fair. Eugenics was backed by science.
It was something saying that, like,
phrenology was backed by science.
Women are more anxious, and therefore they don't like high-stress jobs.
And they get their moon's blood every now and then.
They're more cooperative and less competitive, and that's why they're not fit for like leadership roles.
Ironically, one of his big points is that Google is a left-wing monoculture that doesn't encourage dissent and kind of punishes dissent, and then he got fired for saying that. So I mean,
so he proved his own manifesto.
I mean, they basically said that you're allowed to dissent, but some of the stuff you said went over the line, and it clearly did.
Yeah. Well, 10 pages? Like, how long was the Unabomber's manifesto? it was like a square. He published it in one page on a newspaper, right?
Yeah, he had like breakdowns and summaries and little like points and sections. He had about like, I don't know how many references he had, maybe at least like 30 references.
Like keep it short.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Nobody needs to that long. But I mean, I think he had a point in a sense. If he was shorter and it was just like, I disagree with, say, Google's diversity, higher, like their policies, I think it should be tweaked versus certain ways. He could have framed it a lot better.
What was he saying about Google's diversity?
Because Google really pushes diversity hires and more inclusion.
A lot of things because of this litigation that's against them.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they, like Silicon Valley's long had this like problem of looking like there's I won't say old boys network, but like a young boy, a white, nerdy boys network.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Very hard for women to break into that.
Yeah.
Even if they are talented.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, like, sure enough, even if we do forgive him for saying that possibly men are more suited to it, which who knows if that's true. I don't think men have been evolved to code better than women.
Yeah. No, I think women still
My penis lets me code twice as fast.
But like a company like Google is hiring the best of the best anyway, so it's not like they have to.
There's just straight up more men in computers and engineering in university, so you're getting more of a feeder.
Well, yeah, but it's the same thing with a lot of industries, right? It's the same thing with like the film industry. You just get what's called the pink belt, which is that women don't get hired in positions because men overwhelmingly control those positions and they hire more men.
Which is exactly
right.
The same.
Yeah, so it's systemic. But I don't think that's for that. I don't think you can collude that data with the fact that women don't want those jobs at the same time, right?
Or are not qualified.
Or not qualified,
especially,
absolutely.
There's a statement to be made. It's like women aren't built as men to be like lumberjacks or firemen or something. That's physically...
and I can't have babies.
Well, I don't know. Have you seen Junior the movie?
That's true.
I'm pretty sure that's
That's true, actually. If Schwarzenegger can have babies, we can all have babies.
So, I mean, this whole like Google manifesto has turned obviously into a rallying point for the alt-right, saying because
one of his big points too was that the monoculture is so skewed to the left that conservative opinions and conservative political views are dissented against and like are not very welcome in the tech space.
Well, see, that might be the first thing that he said that I could possibly agree with. Like, this
guy obviously came from a right wing.
Yes, and okay, that's fine. But like, I'm obviously if you're listening to this, we're not conservatives. But I'm just saying you should be able to express your opinions freely without worrying about instant dissent from everyone around you.
You should, right? But the reality is, if you're ranting about how like women aren't people or whatever.
Okay, well, yeah, but that's not a conservative.
Sure, I mean, it's been shown that diversity actually improves your like productivity, improves your economics. Like,
I would argue society in general as well. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just going to say something that like, and I don't want to sound like a left wing asshole. What are the conservative points of view these days that aren't like racist, bigoted, or like
because it's been taken over though.
Like,
I mean, it used to be about right, fair enough, but it used to be about fiscal conservatism, right? But now it is. But now it's about social conservatism as well. Which
I agree with fiscal conservatism. It has been taken over by those social points of view. I mean, I agree with like fiscal conservatism, but like.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, so now
now it's all about hating the trans and hating women and get out of my country.
You're different. So obviously this has been latched on by the alt-right as now like a rallying point of this guy's been fired, they've proven our point. Look at the tech industry is doing to us.
James Damel.
I mean, at the end of the day, what I guess coming back to Alex's point here is that what right wing used to be for is like private industry, the free market,
small government.
You know what small government and free market says is that if you have an employee that made your company look like shit in the public sector, public sphere, and makes your company shitty in the private workplace environment, that guy's fucking fired.
Yes,
that's how jobs go. That's how the corporate world goes.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking a right wing point of view, though.
Okay, so we're about to get to the topic of the week, but we have to touch on this because we said we'd talk about this, and we do have to talk about this.
Yes.
We had too much fun with the mooch last week. We were just so
Damn you, mooch!
Yeah, the fucking mooch.
But last long enough.
Well, we mentioned this, and hopefully you guys Googled it. We said that Trump was tweeting about trans not being allowed in the military, and while the mooch was talking about people sucking their own dicks and doing 8 balls. At the same time, there was an explosive Russian testimony. That has a lot of bearing on, I guess, current politics, the oligarchy controlling.
So this was a U.S. Senate
U.S. Senate
testimony.
Yeah. So
regarding Russia. Here,
I'll round this up really quickly. The new White House communications director was so busy causing a scene, he even reportedly missed the birth of his own baby son on Monday. Blah 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 blah.
Great move. Just text her.
Yeah. But anyways, at the same time, on Wednesday, the 26th of July, financier Bill Browder was due to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. In a pre-prepared remarks published by The Atlantic, he said, "I hope that my story will help understand the methods of Russian operatives in Washington and how they use U.S. enablers to achieve major foreign policy goals without disclosing those interests." And on that same day, Bauer was due to testify. President Trump announced that transgender people will not be allowed in the military. So there was very coincidental.
Yeah.
The two things happened at the time.
And it was an explosive testimony.
Yeah. Bauer's testimony, which received relatively no coverage, with a senator calling it one of the Senate Judiciary Committee's most important hearings. That's ever, by the way. In it, he describes a Russian system of government that operatives in the shadows using corruption, blackmail, torture, and murder led by Vladimir Putin. Browder said, effectively, the moment that you enter in their world, you become theirs. And what he talks about is basically a huge $230 million corruption scandal in which a huge amount of assets are owned in the United States by Russians and Russian oligarchs. And there was an act, the Magnitsky Act.
Fuck you, Russia.
But it gives U.S. Congress the power to target Russian human rights abusers and bars them from America and freezes their financial assets.
Yeah.
So because of this act, hundreds of millions of dollars of Russian assets, both owned by Vladimir Putin and by oligarchs, are now being frozen in the U.S. So
this act isn't new, I don't think, is it?
No, it's not. It's since 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because of that, that combined with the new Russian sanctions that were just basically signed by President Trump, right? At the same time, they are now trying to figure out a way to systematically remove all those assets from the U.S., or at least pull that money back out before they're all frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is? Trump isn't.
No. Browder explains the oligarchs and Putin are.
Yeah.
So Browder explains like this for two reasons. First, since 2012, it emerged that Vladimir Putin was the beneficiary of the stolen $230 million that Sergei Magnitsky exposed. Recent revelations from the Panama Papers have shown that Putin's closest childhood friend, Sergei Khodulgin, a famous cellist, received $2 billion of funds from Russian oligarchs and the Russian state. It is commonly understood that Mr. Khodulgin received this money as an agent of Vladimir Putin. Information from the Panama Papers also links the money from the crime that Sergei Magnitsky discovered and exposed to Sergei Khodulgin. Oh my God. Based on the language of the Magnitsky Act, this would make Putin personally subject to the Magnitsky sanctions. So basically, it's finally reached Putin.
Yeah.
In not so many words. And that's
the spiderweb has always been tacitly connected to Putin. The problem is that any lawyer that's investigated that, as we saw from Browder's own attorney, ends up in jail and then murdered.
Yes. Well, no, they have heart attacks randomly. It's completely random. Yeah.
Well, if you're in jail, you just die of slow poisonings.
Polonium? Oh, that's random.
No, that's out of jail. Out of jail, you die of polonium. In jail, you die of, starvation and beating.
Yeah. Mostly beatings.
Because his lawyer was Magnitsky, right?
Yes.
That's why they named it.
Yes. So that's how the whole web is connected, right?
Yeah.
So that testimony happened. Now that testimony is obviously the timeline of this has been going on for a really long time.
Yeah.
But there was finally someone willing to come before a Senate Judiciary Committee and basically explain this all.
Yeah, because he had his own financial firm in Moscow.
Yeah.
Just doing, straight up American capitalist shit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Putin came crashing down on the oligarchs, I guess, early or late 2000s.
Yeah, around then.
And then just sort of confiscated, locked up one of those guys.
Yeah.
And then went after the assets of other guys and pretty much halted
his friends.
Yeah, I was going to say they were the ones who weren't basically friends of Putin. Yeah.
And then all went to his friends.
Yes.
Yeah. He halted Browder's firm, pretty much froze them out, and then had guys copy his firm's all his assets and do the same thing in Russian.
Wow.
And that's when he got his lawyer to investigate, and then shit obviously went south. And this guy,
Yeah. So, I mean, the optics on this are kind of strange, that the timing of this Senate Commission hearing happened at the same time that, we learned about the trans on in the military, and at the same time Scaramucci is going off about sucking dicks and stuff.
Well, I think the Scaramucci thing is he just...
That's actually true. I don't know if that's correlated.
No,
I think that's the cocaine stories right there.
Really good cocaine. Mooch is fucking off. But the trans thing could be it. I mean, because not only has the trans thing been pretty much not confirmed by...
it's been debunked by top military officials, basically. They've been like, we didn't ask for this, no one did. This is out of nowhere. Yeah.
So
Russia, what was your play? Your play is if you controlled Trump, create chaos. This,
we've talked about this before, though. I don't know if they directly control Trump.
And I don't think he's competent enough to, come out in front of it himself. Right? I don't think he's smart enough to be like, oh shit, we need to cover this thing. I got a great idea. Way too dumb for this.
Please my base.
So somebody's got to clearly be whispering in his ear there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, either way, I think that's an incredible story.
The thing that really
needs more time.
surprises me is that we keep seeing how big the Russian machine is, how advanced it is, how it's got its fingers in everything, and how deeply historical how long it's been going on for.
Yeah.
And Gary Kasparov, the chess master, who's heavily anti-Putin, has been warning people about this forever.
Yes.
And it's been the more I listen to him, the more we see how clearly it is that everyone kind of started ignoring Russia after it fell.
Yeah.
And it took a while to rebuild it, but since it's been rebuilt,
or sell it off.
It's not rebuilt. It's not rebuilt. It's still a third world shithole.
Oh, Russia is a terrible country. I mean, Russia's demographics are basically that you're gonna die at 50 of vodka poisoning. They're a country that is in steep decline, but at least they are on a very steep incline in terms of
geopolitical power.
Geopolitical manipulation. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we mentioned before, it's easy to influence democratic countries, both in the propaganda sphere when you don't have to worry about that.
Well, it wasn't as easy before, but the internet has made things incredibly easy.
You're welcome, guys.
And it's not like we can, the Western world can retaliate. You can't try to retaliate against a bunch of drunk, inbred, illiterate Russians out there who are going to go vote against Putin.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
I mean, the democracy's biggest test will be the internet.
Yes.
Not doing so good so far.
Well, that's gonna be our topic of the week. That's a good segue. Wait, before we get into that, we have to get to the biggest story of the week. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Usher is being sued by 3 women for giving them herpes.
You should have just told him he's around Mexico.
Apparently he refused to disclose his herpes when he was having sex with fans. So.
I mean, I would say these days you just go with fake news, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
fake news. Yeah.
And I mean...
At least he didn't pee on them.
That's true. R. Kelly's much worse.
I always mix up R. Kelly too.
All right, let's get on to our topic of the week, net neutrality. Net neutrality is the concept that internet users should be the only ones who control what they see on the net, not the internet service providers or the government.
So this has been covered quite a bit, pretty much all over the place.
Well, yeah, this is the whole reason we brought in an expert.
Yeah. We brought him in. We fucked him out of there. So, I mean, I don't even think we need to really go into the ins and outs of net neutrality, do we? Doesn't everybody know what net neutrality is all about?
That pretty much describes it, right?
I think
can you describe quickly why Comcast came under fire and what they were trying to do to the average person?
I mean, it is actually more complicated than I think people are, because I don't even have the greatest handle on it despite being an expert. But I mean, my greatest understanding of it is that it's capitalism at play. It's eventually that you can create a 2-tiered internet where you can give preference to corporations that pay you more to give access to better access for users, faster downloads. It's if you don't pay for it, you're going to be on the crappy internet where it's this barely works. Why should I use this? Whereas you go on the good internet, it's oh, look, I can buy that new Ford.
Right, but for the layman, that's different than, say, having a better service provider who provides me a better megabyte per second speed.
Yes.
Right? So
it'll be it'll be tiered at a
website based. Almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but enabled by the internet service provider.
Oh, sure.
I would imagine.
They'll be paid.
They'd have to buy into it.
The ISPs will be paid off by whatever the backing is. So, say right now, if you were to go, say, to our podcast, Serfs.com. Serfs.podbean.
I was like, it's definitely not the Serfs.com.
You go to ours, or you go to, I don't know, Scaramucci's, and Scaramucci would obviously pay off way more money.
Yeah.
And so because of that, his would have better access. You'd be able to access it quicker, faster, it'd be on the top hits.
But can't people already get that by buying better servers? Can I pay for better internet service for my personal webpage that would be better than someone else's?
But they can throttle it. That's the thing with the net neutrality.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that's it. Is that like, yes, you always want to be, you can always pay more, and like if you have more traffic, you're obviously going to need a better server.
Yeah.
That it's going to be able to hand more bandwidth.
Yeah.
But it is that throttling of like at your connection to the internet level, what is the provider to you? Who are they making deals with, and who are they saying to, like, yes, we'll throttle the rest of the bad internet and give the ad-ridden internet.
Okay.
Because that's why for a long time Netflix was very staunchly anti net neutrality.
Right.
Because for an
they take up so much bandwidth.
Yeah, and for an up and coming streaming service that's still breaking into the mold and trying to get profitable, they require people to have a free flow of information.
Right.
Right. But if say that changed and say Time Warner decided, we own all the cable companies, we want to fuck over Netflix, like.
Well, wasn't that part of the reason Comcast had like such a big dog in this race?
Yeah, probably, because Comcast fingers are basically over everything.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conflict of interest here because a lot of those big ISPs are also providers of content, big media companies, where they want you to watch their channels, they want you to download and like use their streaming services. So, eventually this will lead to like, this is why it's called net neutrality, and that the small players are really going to get sidelined here.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones who are going to pay in the end. And then in the end, the citizens are going to pay, because I mean, in terms of this thing, like a socialist slant, like you want to give equal access to everyone, and the internet is really information, and so suddenly you're controlling information, and you're going towards those like third world dictatorship levels of what can people see. And like, I mean, if they can tier the internet, what's to say they eventually won't go down the lines of China and say and like control what you can see on the internet.
Yeah, because that's not to use that slippery slope kind of argument easily, because that's such a cop out in a lot of situations, but it does apply here in that it's almost like right off the bat, it's like a corporate slippery slope where...
And that's not going to happen right away, but you got to think in the future, because the internet is like, I mean, look how quickly the internet moves. I mean, like, the internet now is a staple in any kid's life that's grown up. They don't know what it is without it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like...
We're kind of helpless without the internet. Yeah. Could you read a map anymore? Like, I remember when I used to be able to do that.
We can read maps. We're still not like full-blown retards like the kids.
Yes, but the next generation can't.
They can't.
Apparently spelling is atrocious now because kids they've lost the ability to have... They need autocorrect all the time, right?
Of course. You like kids these days depend on internet badly.
Yes.
Like, so you do in the future. You do have to extrapolate out and think 30 years down the road, what is this going to mean for
so we'll just be helpless giblets.
30 years. Like, look at Trump and look at the financial backers he's had during his campaign.
So right away.
He could throttle the internet in a way. If his billion-dollar backers from the Coke industries, from the Mercers...
His FCC guy is such an asshole.
Oh, yeah. Ajit fucking... Whatever his face is.
Yeah.
Just like pretending to put on this pretty face of like, we support net neutrality, while completely like railing it behind the scenes and just destroying it.
So Glenn Beck compares the proponents of net neutrality to Marxists. What would you respond to that?
I mean, it's stupid that Marxist is socialism gets some bad rap because of like America and capitalism's always sidelined socialism. Whereas capitalism needs to be balanced with socialism. And I mean, the internet obviously was kind of like a socialist route to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was like everyone had free access. Everyone had could say what they wanted. Yeah. Everyone could put it on there what they wanted. Once it was on the internet, it never went away.
Yeah.
Watch out for that.
I mean, like, what's wrong with the internet? I mean, I was going to say, what's wrong with the internet right now? And obviously the answer to that is a lot.
Money.
There's a lot of problems on the internet. But we don't need to,
there's lots of things wrong with the internet, just like there's lots wrong with society. But what's wrong with the internet for businesses is that they're not making enough money.
Yes, that's it. They don't control everything. Right? Like, the little man has the same power as the big, Comcast. Like, you and I can start our own little website
Or podcast.
Or podcast.
GeoCities.
Do you still have an active GeoCities webpage with like dancing babies on it? Okay, let's get down to the meat of this then. So net neutrality, obviously, a couple of years ago, it was trying to be passed through Congress, right? There's trying to be a federal trade commission.
They pushed it through. They tried to push it through during Obama's second term.
Right.
That's pretty much when it got.
Yeah.
Really the ball got rolling.
February 2015.
To lock down net neutrality or go against it?
Well, the Federal Communications Commission voted 3-2 in favor of Title II reclassification of the internet as a public utility, which is a huge victory for net neutrality, obviously.
Which a lot of it was from public outcry from the internet,
Well, and that was really interesting. Do you remember during that time, so many web pages were blacked out?
Yeah.
Right? You would log on to Wikipedia, blacked out, and
Yeah.
it said we're blacked out, vote for net neutrality.
Yeah.
And it really got it into your head. You're like, I got to do something about this. I need some on Wikipedia. Yeah.
Because that's it. Like sites like Wikipedia would be like, Wikipedia is a free site.
Yes.
It's not going to get
It's a non-profit.
Yeah. It would get fucked over in net
Absolutely.
neutrality.
Yeah.
So,
and it's something like the 6th or 7th most searched site on the internet. Is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Wikipedia would be one of those holdouts. I don't see how you could fuck over Wikipedia that hard because so many people use it.
Yeah.
But then they would obviously have to stay neutral for the entire time.
Right.
But I mean, though the problem with those grassroots uprooting movements is that they get so much groundswell for like one time.
Yeah.
But then the government businesses can keep coming at it with the healthcare stuff.
Right. It's tough to maintain that same level of resistance over that long.
Especially when people's attention can be so easily distracted.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of like crazy news that's coming in these days.
Have you heard about Usher?
3 women.
3 women. Herpes. So is that the end, I guess, of the war against net neutrality? Because I heard that was coming up again this year. That was a big thing.
It's going to keep going.
Like, for example, Donald Trump is firmly against it, right?
No, isn't Donald Trump for it?
No, he's
against.
Donald Trump's for whatever his business partners want him to do.
Right.
And his business partners in the telecom side want to, even though they often say they support net neutrality, they want to make more money.
Yes.
And they want to like bring in ad and like internet revenue, especially from the big advertisers like car companies and stuff. That'll be what it is.
Okay.
Like you hate ads now. Think how bad they're going to be for net neutrality.
I didn't even think about that one. Yeah, that's terrible.
That's the big play is to to have like more ads and like more of like what can we make? How can we make money off businesses that aren't internet businesses like car companies and like all that.
Okay. And so for you, as someone who works in telecom, what would you recommend people do in order to kind of like help preserve?
Get involved and get educated. Because I mean, there's not enough people who understand what it is. And there's everyone, I think almost like, what is the percentage that would support net neutrality? Over 95%.
Easily.
Like everybody supports it. Everybody
Yeah.
wants this, but nobody knows what it is.
Right.
It's more of in the tech space, the nerdy people, but it's not even that nerdy. Like there's maybe, I would guess like 10% of the population maybe has a handle.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you can educate people, but it's so hard because there's so much money and backing from these companies that they don't want you to understand.
Yeah.
So it's like, get out there and understand it. But the people who listen to this kind of podcast are going to already know about stuff like that. So how do you educate the regular
the random people? The people who just go on the internet normally and
take it for granted.
Take it for granted.
People
don't even realize there's a risk, right?
Yeah.
And everyone hates ads, and people don't want to see more ads. And if you told them that was what it's about, then they would get on board.
No, that's fair.
So I mean, the other thing is that you need support from government, and so it sucks when something like the U.S. government is so systematically ingrained to support extremist capitalism.
Yeah.
And so, and the problem is that yes, even if you are not in the U.S., your country could support something could support net neutrality. But I think it's hard to say what is going to happen because so many of the internet traffic goes through big hubs that are privatized in the U.S.
Yeah, and so you're saying that's a danger to Canada too, right?
Huh?
And is that a danger to Canada as well?
Because our internet traffic goes through the U.S. and these big hubs.
Is it the same with the UK as well?
Everyone in the world, their traffic goes through.
Really? It all goes through the US?
Most of the big switches are in the U.S., at least in North America. But
so you could argue the internet exists largely in the U.S.
Yeah,
as a physical hub.
There's definitely huge ones in the U.S. I'm sure there's big ones in Europe and big ones in Asia as well.
Okay.
But those are all privately controlled, so it's hard to say that if government regulation starts regulating those kind of things in their favor, what will that do for the rest of the world's traffic?
Right.
Yeah.
Would that ever affect the dark web?
That's the good thing is that decentralization is making a big push in the U.S. in the internet.
Okay.
Bitcoin is a big
cryptocurrencies are growing.
I mean, so there's big arguments in the Bitcoin and that currency space of like some people want to see it go through non-decentralization so it can be centralized in certain places to be controlled. Mm-hmm. But most of the ground roots proponents say that like decentralization is the beauty of it, and that like some guy on their computer is running the Bitcoin network. He's producing stuff. And that's the same way with the internet. Can the internet be decentralized? Well, the capability of devices says that it can. Yeah. So it's that can we realize that potential? If we can decentralize it, we can get rid of governments. That's the whole beauty of Bitcoin is that you can get beyond financial controls. The hard part about Bitcoin is switching it in and out. But it's
like you're getting into anarchy territory. Then we can decentralize governments.
Yeah, it is a bit anarchy, but I mean, the problem with Bitcoin is that you can always have in Bitcoin, but can you get it back into your currency? Right. So the thing with the decentralized internet is like you can always try to decentralize the internet in terms of devices can help run things. Right. But you're always going to have that internet provider that is providing you with that internet pipe somewhere in your country, and that is can always be regulated by the government. So it isn't a really interesting space going forward, and it's hard to get people to educate themselves about these kind of nerdy internet topics like this. But if more people knew about net neutrality, it would be hopefully more protected.
Yeah, cool. It's tough to get a place that's. I mean, like I know John Oliver did his segment last year or so, but it's tough to get a concise, simple layman's breakdown for a lot of people. Because like if you're some random schmuck who's like lives in some random schmucky part of the world, it's tough for you to be like, I'm going to search net neutrality and get like.
I'd like you to define random schmucky part of the world.
Let's not go into what I consider schmucky here. I'm an elitist liberal, a coastal elitist liberal. Anybody who's not a coastal liberal is a schmuck.
They've probably never even seen the ocean.
Racist.
But I mean, yeah, the whole topic it's not that complicated, but it just I guess seems that daunting from the outside. Yeah. But it's obviously something that's like important that we ideally like. It's important, right? Because once we lose it, you're fucked. It's one of those things.
You can only really lose it once, right?
Yeah. The problem is the governments and the big businesses have so much of the power. Like the citizens can only do so much on this topic, just like they can for healthcare in the U.S. And that the only thing they can really do is protest and make their voices heard
and vote.
Yeah, and vote.
Which I mean is the general concept of how democracies are supposed to enact. But
the shitty part in the U.S. though is even if you voted Democrat, the Democrats can still come out against.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, and a lot of them did. Oh, yeah,
they're still very capitalist as well.
Yeah, the problem when it comes to net neutrality is it's such a big business thing, and generally, and politicians all around the world are really into that whole big business.
The internet is going to it's already revolutionized so much stuff, and people don't realize the amount it's going to revolutionize everything, especially business. Every aspect of business, and people want control of that, especially businesses. Obviously,
Awesome. All right, well, we're just coming up to the end of the hour here. Do you have a quote or two?
I just got one quote. Really,
that's all we need.
So today, Trump started off this morning talking about the opioid epidemic.
Yes. That was of which he's done nothing.
Yeah, I can't remember what spurned. Oh, Fox and Friends were talking about the opioid epidemic. I mean, he did call New Hampshire the other day, 3 days ago, a drug-infested shit den or drug-infested den or something.
Yeah, that's fixing it right there.
But today, after the Fox News or Fox and Friends episode, 20 minutes, he had a little tweet storm about opioids. And we know he's not golfing because the weather's bad. So he said at 3:00 today he's gonna unleash a briefing about the opioid crisis. Okay. So people are like, all right, well the president's finally gonna say something about the opioid crisis. Will this be like a policy? What is he gonna say? Blah blah blah. So this is what Trump eventually said. Trump says to prevent opioid overdoses, you have to tell youths no good, really bad for you. If they don't start, it'll never be a problem. Oh, problem solved, everybody.
Oh man, that was easy.
Stay off drugs, kids.
Yeah, that's. Well, we're gonna have to do that for a topic of the week and get into opioids because the president's not gonna do it. So I guess it falls on our shoulders.
I think for that episode we'll have to take some opioids.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We're not gonna have beers of the week. We'll just have oxys of the week.
So for any doctors out there,
well, we're using the generic brand of oxy. This is the 40 milligrams, and it's quite debilitating.
Addicted.
I feel great. All right. Well, we want to thank Alex very much for being our guest this week. Thanks for giving us your insight. Yeah, that was awesome. And if you guys want to comment or question or do anything, go to theserfs.podbean.com. For the Serfs, I'm Lance.
And I'm Dave. And vaya con el diablo.